The future is female. There's power in what you say.
Wisconsin is one of a handful of states that are considered swing states in the upcoming November presidential election. The WOW counties, as they're called, including Waukesha, Ozaukee, and Washington counties, have been reliably Republican for years. And in 2016, the strong Republican margin narrowed some. Now, political watchers are eyeing the WOW counties as a potential Republican bellwether as President Trump seeks re-election.
In Washington County, one always feels like they may be the only lone soul in the progressive realm of politics. I think we were always there, we just didn't know about one another.
There's one other house on my street that has a Biden-Harris sign and a Black Lives Matter sign, and unfortunately my car was keyed because of that. I didn't take the sign down, I got another one. It's important to me to show my kids that we don't back down, even if you're surrounded.
I grew up in Washington County and I experienced racism ever since middle school is when I started seeing it. My whole mother's side is Ojibwe. We are involved in the tribe of Lac du Flambeau in northern Wisconsin, and my father is 100% Pakistani. My culture is a huge part of the reason why I vote and who I vote for.
My husband's a steel mill worker. He has been supporting our family, and we're struggling. We're slowly having more and more problems making our ends meet every month. It is something that never goes away in the back of your mind.
We've been a farming family my entire life. Things that have gone on over the last 4 years in terms of tariffs and trade wars have really significantly impacted farmers in a very negative way. In the last 10 years, Wisconsin has lost 44% of its family farms.
So this is the first election that I can vote in since I'm 19, and right now one of my biggest issues is affordable health care. My job is to take care of people, but at the end of the day when they do leave the hospital, that bill is up to them, and I've seen hospital bills skyrocket so fast, so quick. I worked in a COVID unit for 2 to 3 months, and one of the most stressful things about it was the emotional aspect, going in there and holding their hand and telling them that it's going to be okay, even if you don't know if it's going to be okay yourself.
This is a pivotal moment in America.
This is a pivotal moment in America.
There has never been so much at stake.
For our families,
For our bodies.
for our future. Other people in my area that also have progressive views have become louder, and it is making me so thrilled.
I'm passionate for this election because it affects my daily life. Being a woman and a person of color, I am terrified that my rights will be taken away from me.
I'm voting for Joe Biden because he's going to lead change into the future.
I am voting for Joe Biden because I believe that he is a man of integrity, of caring and compassion.
I'm voting for Joe Biden because I have to cast my vote for hope.
Now is the time.
Nothing will stop us.
We are the women of Wisconsin.
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 And we are taking our state back for Biden.
We are the women of Wisconsin.
And we are taking our state back for Biden.
Welcome to this Biden-Harris campaign event, Women Take Back Wisconsin GOTV Weekend Closing Rally with Glennon Doyle and Beanie Feldstein. Please welcome Wisconsin State Representative Robin Vining.
We are the women of Wisconsin. Welcome tonight. I am so honored to be here with our guests. I am State Representative Robin Vining. I represent Wauwatosa, Brookfield, and Milwaukee, the notorious crucial Waukesha County being about half of my district. I am honored to be here and to thank you because you have just spent the weekend fighting alongside so many other Americans, Wisconsinites, for the heart and soul of this country. So thank you. Thank you for the work that you've been doing this weekend. And I just want to take a quick second and tell you how important it is. When you make those phone calls, and I know for a lot of people, it's an anxious activity. It's uncomfortable. You're not sure what's going to happen. But what you are doing is reaching into the home of another person. You are reaching out to a fellow American. You are reaching out to people who are experiencing the same pandemic that you're experiencing, that is maybe experiencing it in different ways, but suffering in so many. And so that human contact, the way that you reach out, the way that you've chosen to love by reaching out on the phone, it matters. It may be the only contact that somebody has gotten, and you are doing that in a way that fights for the heart and soul of this country. So thank you for what you're doing. We have exciting numbers from this weekend. Okay, so we made this weekend 92,980 attempts on phones, 1,721, so 1,721 people were reached. So you reached 1,721 people, and you sent 1,900 postcards. And that matters. That is so exciting. We also activated 200 women on this weekend for actions. Yay! So look, we are in the fight of our lives. We are down to the final 8 days. Many of us have already voted, and others, I'm sure, are voting very soon. The work you're doing is to move this country forward. It's so that on election night in 2020, we don't feel like we did on election night in 2016. So it's my honor to welcome, to celebrate, to enjoy the work that you've done this weekend. And now, all right, Glennon Doyle is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Untamed. I read it the first week of the pandemic. It's a Reese's Book Club selection. She's also the author of New York Times bestsellers, Love Warrior. I read that in the front room of my house several years ago, which is an Oprah's book club selection, and Carry On Warrior, also read that, love that too. An activist and a thought leader, Glennon is the founder and president of Together Rising, an all-women-led nonprofit organization that has revolutionized grassroots philanthropy, raising over $25 million for women, families, and children in crisis. I love how you guys quickly move and activate when something happens. It's so heartwarming and exciting. In the 40 days leading up to the election day, Glennon started a We Can Do Hard Things 40 Days of Outreach to Action initiative. She and her community are committed to sharing concrete actions for each of us to take most effectively, to use our voices, power, and influence in this election. She lives in Florida with her wife and 3 children. Glennon, take it away.
Thank you, Robin. Hi, everybody. I am still emotional from that video. Wow, women of Wisconsin. I related so much. I live in Naples, Florida, which is a place where I am just surrounded by the same Trump signs that were shown in that video. I live in a place where I often feel like, I guess it's a feeling of a little bit of not being safe and having my family not really be loved, because I feel like the people around us will hang out with us, but then they will go into voting booths and vote against our family having the same rights that their families do. And that's hard. And to see that video where, I mean, the woman who freaking got her car keyed and then just bought another sign, that is what I'm talking about. That is the doubling down that I am talking about. And the fact that you all made your voices heard and then found each other, so we're not alone anymore. I mean, it's so beautiful. And I respect and love you so much. And I was watching that video thinking, holy crap, but I wasn't saying crap in my head, but I don't know what rated this situation is. I was thinking, are we okay with, yeah. I was thinking, this is it. Like, this is history right now. Like when we were kids and we would read about how in crucial moments in our country, some people showed up and some people sat it out. We're in it right now. And you are the ones who are showing up. I mean, it gives me goosebumps all over my body. Like, you are the ones who will be able to look your children in the eye, look your neighbors in the eye, look yourself in the mirror and know that when it was time to be brave and to use your voice and to spend your precious time and energy making phone calls, writing postcards, you will be able to be the ones to say that you did it. That as as Audre Lorde said, that you became the ones you were waiting for. It's amazing. It's so inspiring to me. So I love you. The other reason is that you should know that because of this rally, I was unable to spend the day traveling to Tampa Bay and sit at a soccer tournament all day to watch my girls play soccer. I missed it for this. And so I will love you forever. I will love Wisconsin from the depths of my heart forever, because Abby had to take the children by herself today and I sat in this house by myself all day. So thank you, Wisconsin, for that. I am going to read, I was asked to read a chapter from Untamed, so I'm going to read a few pages. And I chose to read this one called Comfort Zones because it's about women. And well, I'll let you decide what it's about. Okay, Comfort Zones. I used to stay brokenhearted, like it was my job and destiny. Like pain was what I owed the world, and staying sad was how I stayed safe. Self-denial was how I earned my worthiness, my goodness, my right to exist. Suffering was my comfort zone. I decided at 40 years old to try a new way. I chose Abby. I chose my own joy. I chose to believe, as Mary Oliver promised, that I don't have to be good. I can just let the soft animal of my body love what it loves. I made this choice out of love for myself and Abby, and also out of curiosity. I wondered if joy had as much to teach me as pain did. If so, I wanted to know. I am not sure what the path of joy will teach me in the long run. Choosing joy is new for me, but I've learned this much. It's nice to be happy. I feel lighter and clearer and stronger and more alive. I haven't been struck down yet. One thing that has surprised me is this: the happier I become, the happier my children seem to become. I am unlearning everything I've been trained to believe about motherhood and martyrdom. In our wedding book, my son wrote, "Abby, before you came, Mom never turned our volume up past 11. Thank you." I hope that my new belief that love should make you feel both held and free is a belief my children will keep. I've also learned that while choosing joy makes it easier for me to love myself and my life, it seems to make it harder for the world to love me. I was speaking at an event recently, and a woman stood up in the audience, looked at me on stage, and said into the microphone, "Glennon, I used to love your writing so much. When you talked about your pain and how hard life was, I felt so comforted. But lately, with your new life, you seem different. I have to be honest, I'm finding you harder and harder to relate to." "Yes," I said, "I understand. I'm happier now. I'm not doubting myself as much, and that is making me confident and stronger, so I'm suffering less. I have noticed that it seems easier for the world to love a suffering woman than it is for the world to love a joyful, confident woman. It's hard for me too." I was at one of Tish's soccer games, and there was a girl on the other team who was just rubbing me the wrong way. I could tell by the sideline body language and eye rolling that she was also rubbing several of my soccer mom friends the wrong way. I watched her carefully, trying to figure out why this girl was activating us. I noticed that she walked with her head held high and with a bit of a swagger. She was good, and she knew it. She went in for the ball often and hard, like a girl who knows her own strength and talent. She smiled the whole time, like all of this was easy for her, like she was having the time of her life. All of this just annoyed the hell out of me. She was 12. I sat with my feelings and I realized the knee-jerk reaction I'm having to this girl is a direct result of my training. I have been conditioned to mistrust and dislike strong, confident, happy girls and women. We all have. Studies prove that the more powerful, successful, and happy a man becomes, the more people trust and like him. But the more powerful and happy a woman becomes, the less people like and trust her. So we proclaim women are entitled to take their rightful place. And then when a woman does take her rightful place, our first reaction is, she's so entitled. We become people who say of confident women, I don't know, I can't explain it. It's just something about her. I just don't like her. I can't put my finger on why. I can put my finger on why. It's because our training is kicking in through our subconscious. Strong, happy, confident girls and women are breaking our cultural's implicit rule that girls should be self-doubting, reserved, timid, and apologetic. Girls who are bold enough to break those rules irk us. Their brazen defiance and refusal to follow directions make us want to put them back into their cage. Girls and women sense this. We want to be liked. We want to be trusted. So we downplay our strengths to avoid threatening anyone and invoking disdain. We do not mention our accomplishments. We do not accept compliments. We temper, qualify, and discount our opinions. We walk without swagger and we yield incessantly. We step out of the way. We say, I feel like, instead of I know. We ask if our ideas make sense instead of assuming they do. We apologize for everything. Conversations among brilliant women often devolve into competitions for who wins the trophy for hottest mess. We want to be respected, but we want to be loved and accepted even more. I once sat with Oprah Winfrey at her kitchen table, and she asked me what I was most proud of in my life as an activist, writer, mother. I panicked and started mumbling something like, oh, I don't feel proud. I feel grateful. None of it's really me. I'm surrounded by great people. I'm just incredibly lucky. And she put her hand on mine and said, don't do that. Don't be modest. Dr. Maya Angelou used to say, modesty is a learned affectation. You don't want modesty. You want humility. Humility comes from the inside out. I think of what she said to me every day. She was saying, playing dumb, weak, and silly is a disservice to yourself and to me and the world. Every time you pretend to be less than you are, you steal permission from other women to exist fully. Don't mistake modesty for humility. Modesty is a giggly lie, an act, a mask, a fake game. We have no time for it. The word humility derives from the Latin word humilitas, which means of the earth. To be humble is to be grounded in knowing who you are. It implies the responsibility to become what you were meant to become, to grow, to reach, to fully bloom as high and strong and grand as you were created to. It is not honorable for a tree to wilt and shrink and disappear. It's not honorable for a woman to either. I've never pretended to be stronger than I am, so I'm sure as hell not going to pretend I'm weaker than I am. I'm also going to quit requiring modesty from other women. I don't want to find comfort in the weakness and pain of other women. I want to find inspiration in the joy and success of other women because that makes me happier. And because if we keep disliking and tearing down strong women instead of loving them, supporting them, and voting for them, we won't have any strong women left. When I see a joyful, confident woman moving through the world with swagger, I'm going to forgive myself for my first reaction because it's not my fault, it's just my conditioning. First reaction, who the hell does she think she is? Second reaction, she knows she's a goddamn cheetah. Halle fucking Luya.
Yay!
I'm sweating.
It's this portion.
I had to dress up for you guys by putting on a cardigan because that's my dressing up now. I only live in black tank tops because I'm so sweaty that I sweat through everything. So this is my uniform now. But you know, men have uniforms, so why can't we?
For sure, for sure. Glennon, one of the things I love about your book, we always say like the method is the message, and we mean that in a lot of ways. But this particular book, you said the way you wrote it was really important to you, the way that it rolled out. And I feel like that book feels like you. It's not just the words talk about you, but it just feels like you. And that enhances your message in the book that much more. It makes, I think, your book, like, we believe you. Like, we believe you that you are exactly who you say you are in that book because of the way you tell it as well. So thank you for that. I just want to admire that for a moment, and just love that you chose to write a book the way you wanted to write it, and you did. So in your book, you deconstruct so many memos and rules that women are given in our society, hypothetically speaking, you know, if that were the case.
If that were the case.
But what memo or rule are you currently reevaluating?
All the same ones. I am not a human being who learns something and then is like, nailed it, moving right along forever. Like I just learn the same things. I feel like I learn the same 5 or 10 things over and over again, every single day, every single year, every single decade. Some I've just been thinking about today, I can tell you. My kid had a really hard soccer game today. She finally got to play on the field, and then she didn't do as well as she wanted. And Abby's with her. She's just devastated. Every part of my mom body just wants to be like, you don't have to play soccer anymore. Sports are terrible, and you don't have to try anything hard ever again. I still have it in me that my job is to protect my kids from pain. And I know that is 100% not true. And so I'm fighting that memo that it is my job actually to let her have every single struggle and every single disappointment and every single letdown, because all of this is making her, right? And I am trying not to be a parent who steals those things from their kids, because we know that adults who become people who can overcome challenges, who are resilient, who are kind and good, are people who have overcome struggles, right? Not from people who have had those taken away from them left and right by their parents. So I'm working on that one. I was also thinking so much today, Abby's with the kids at the soccer game, and she's texting updates to me and Craig and her are writing back and forth about what all these goals mean and offside, and I don't know, and I'm just trying to keep up. And I was thinking today about how beautiful our weird little family is, and how I spent so much time worrying that, you know, the saddest thing I could do is to like break up the family, like to become a broken family. You know, that was a memo that I got as a kid. Like, success is you stay married till you die. Right? Even if you're both dying inside the whole time, that is success, right? And so to see my family in a completely different form that we kind of made ourselves, and still to see everyone really more than ever being their free and true and beautiful selves, is a reprogramming for me. And then also just this idea of really what we're doing here. Like, what I think I spent a lot of time thinking that democracy was something that other people did and that I enjoyed. That's truly what I thought for most of my life. I thought there were some grown-ups in charge, and my job was to enjoy the benefits of whatever those grown-ups decided. And so it is terrifying and empowering to become an adult and realize that there is no Oz behind the curtain, right? That it's us, I used to go to, I have like memories of the dentist ingrained in my head, because the dentist has been a very scary place for me my whole life. But when I was little, I remember laying on the dentist chair, and there was this sign on the wall that said, ignore your teeth and they'll go away. And that's how I feel about democracy now. Like, oh, we ignore it and it just goes away. I see. So I'm just, over the past, 4 years, I have come to understand that democracy will be part of my life every single day. You know, it's like as you get older and you realize, oh, I'm 40 now, I have to pay attention to like my health. Like health is for everyone. Like that's now I'm 44 and I'm like, oh, democracy is for everyone. I see what we're doing here. So that is something that I'm committed to now, not just at election time, but all the time.
Yes, it's the we are the ones we've been waiting for. It's the we have every once in a generation. We have to make sure that we're still fighting to make sure that this democracy still exists, A, and then B, that we're continually making it better and reflect who each of us in this country, that it reflects all of us, right? How are you finding joy these days?
I don't know. Okay, so this is just so funny that you asked me this today because my wife was making fun of me all morning today for not knowing what fun is. But like, she's always like, "What do you do for fun?" And I'm like, you know what? I have enough pressure. Okay, I'm just trying to do all the things that I have to do. Like, I'm trying to mom, I'm trying to democracy, I'm trying to artist, I'm trying to activist, and now I have to fun also. Like, this is an exhausting concept to me. But here's what I'll tell you. What brings me the most joy, first of all, I'm a raging introvert. So while so much of COVID, especially as someone who runs a nonprofit, has been unbelievably painful, the fact that I can now do all of my work from my home is really, really joyful to me. Like, just pajama life is my best life. My dogs, I have 2 dogs who bring me great joy every day. I have 3 kids, one of whom, I'll tell you something really cool about my kids. We have this thing going in our family, which is called divorce, which means that every other week my kids leave, which is not terrible. That brings me great joy. I love when they're with me, and I love when they go. That part is really another benefit of divorce they don't talk about. And what else? I just freaking love, I have this little team of women that I work, my sister and our two of our best friends, that we just do all of the things together. We basically run Together Rising and my business also. And, you know, a month ago, we were just like, how are we going to use this next 40 days? And all together, we're like, we have to use every single bit of every energy and time and every part of our platform to do every single thing we can to leave it on the field, all on the field, because we're living right now for our November 4th selves. That's what we're doing. Our self-care at the moment is doing every single thing we can do to make sure that our November 4th selves can look at ourselves in the eye, in the mirror, and know that we did every single thing we could do to leave it on the field, right? And that has been a beautiful thing. I have noticed this, and I wonder if you amazing Wisconsinites, is that what you're called? Wisconsinites?
Yeah.
Really? Nailed it! Okay. Have noticed this. I feel like I have a black hole of terror, fear, and dread that I kind of tiptoe around my whole life, right? I just am like, I could go in there if I remember going in there. I'm someone who's dealt with depression my whole life, so I know the black hole. I have the black hole about fear for my country, but there's something about using every bit of your energy to activate that leaves much less energy for despair and fear and terror. I feel like because of this campaign that we've done over the last 40 days, and I wonder if you all feel the same way, we are working too hard to have any time left over to be too anxious or afraid. It's like it takes the same amount of energy, right? If I weren't doing this campaign, I would be spending the exact same amount of energy all day. I would just be freaking out, like just stressing and freaking out by myself, getting nothing done. So it brings me great joy every day to be meeting with these women and being like, what are we going to do today? Even if it just gets one more person to the polls, like, what are we going to do today?
Well, and I was going to ask you about anxiety, because I think a lot of women who experience anxiety look to you as somebody who is like very freely sharing what that's like. And I was going to ask you what it's like, A, in the pandemic, but B, as we're leading up in the last 8 days till the election. You talked about it when you and Abby and Craig went to vote together earlier this week. And I know I get nervous. I get nervous when I see a ballot with my own name on it. I get very nervous. And then I get very nervous I'm not going to fill in the right bubble next to my own name. And then I get very nervous that I'm going to not get the right presidential bubble filled in. So there's like that going on.
Good times.
Yeah. And then there's the nerves that have we done everything we can and we're in the final 8 days, and how do we make sure we leave it all on the field? But then there's the general, like, we're in a global pandemic. We have a massive public health crisis and economic crisis, inextricably linked. Can't solve the economic crisis till we solve the public health crisis. Our kids, school, work, we're all in the same house together all day. How are you dealing with that anxiety?
Just nailing it, Robin. I'm just nailing it. I'm just really easy breezy, lovely to live with, pretty much staying steady. Listen, since I was 10 years old, okay, so 10 years old is when I started understanding that I had some mental differences, okay, and that played out dramatically over the next 2 decades. But 10 is when it kind of I became aware of it. And I have dealt with chronic anxiety since then, okay? So when the pandemic happened, you guys, when COVID happened, this thing happened to me, which first I felt guilty about, but then I started talking to some of my friends. I mean, I'm an artist and an activist, so all of my friends are mentally ill, right? So I have a lot of people to talk to about this stuff. And there was this thing that happened to people with anxiety that we actually became less anxious in the beginning of COVID. Abby would look at me and be like, what is going on? Like, you are the calmest one in the family. And that has literally never happened before, right? What is happening? And it was something about, I have spent my whole life thinking the world was about to end. Like, I've been Chicken Little my whole life, right? And then that shit came true, right? My whole life, therapists have been like, oh, you're just anxious. And I'm like, am I? Or am I just paying attention? Right? So now the other shoe fell, everything. And then I'm kind of like, well, how do you like me now? Right? And also, I have spent my entire life figuring out how to be scared, how to be sweaty and scared and still show up, right? How to be semi-terrified all the time and still find a way to not only survive during that time, but to get what needs to be done, right? And to actually thrive. So I felt like, oh, I this is kind of my thing. Like, this is my time to shine. I can tell people how to do this because now everybody's terrified, right? I had special skills that I had been honing my entire life. And with the world right now, I mean, I think that COVID did a lot of things to us. One of the reasons why everything seems so terrible right now is because we were forced to actually look at what has always been terrible, right? So our institutions have always existed not to serve most of us, right? All our institutions have always been broken. Police brutality has always been prevalent. Racism has always been rampant and baked into our culture. It's just that COVID was this kind of like forced settling. Like, we are like those snow globes, right? That we just we do everything that we can do to keep the snow shaken so it doesn't settle, so we don't have to look at the truth of things, right? And then COVID happened and it was like a collective forced settling of the snow because we didn't have our things to grab for anymore. We didn't have busyness. We didn't have work. We didn't have our social lives. We just all were staring at all of our issues in our lives, right? How many people like finally facing that addiction thing, or finally healing that relationship, or finally made that phone call that or our relationships. I mean, we were able to stay busy and ignore the problems in our relationships. Well, you can't ignore it when your problem is sitting next to you on the couch for 7 freaking months, right? Like, it's right there. Or the problems in our communities or our nation, right? I'm convinced that the stillness, the fact that we were all forced to watch George Floyd. forced to see the dragon at the center of the snow globe of our country. That forced stillness is what gave us the momentum. It's like kinetic energy, right? It's like potential first, and then it turns into kinetic energy. So I know that people who are in, like, the activists are hopeful because what we're looking at now and dealing with has always existed. It's just that now people are unable to ignore it, right? So there's the anxiety is like a jittery, hopeful anxiety, because it feels like the chaos before, it feels like the destruction that is required for construction, right? So, you know, I'm still sweaty and nervous all the time, but there's hope laced in there.
Glennon, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being our cheerleader of cheetahs. Thank you for being our leader and we can do hard things. Thank you for being our friend when we are in our houses for 7 straight months. Thank you for writing words that we feel like we can feel when we read them. Thanks that your book just feels like it's you. And thanks for loving us enough to share so much of yourself with us. It's really generous. And I think you really give us all space to open up and be ourselves more and more. So thank you for that. Empathy 2020, let's do this thing. Leave it all on the field. Let's all get out there and vote like Glennon and Abby and Craig already have this week. Vote early. You don't want Wisconsin, we don't want you standing in a line with sideways sleet. That's what we do in November. There's sideways sleet in November. November 3rd, we don't want you out there for 2 hours in sideways. Like, get the early. Do you want to tell them to vote early, Glenn?
Please vote early. I did it and it was a lovely experience.
It's still just as exciting, right?
Oh my God, it was so exciting, because nothing's more exciting than getting your thing done. I feel like an American hero. I did it.
And like, you took a friend, like, you piled in a car.
My wife and my ex-husband, okay? If I can do that, if I can take my wife and my ex-husband, you can do it, Wisconsin.
And so it is still just as exciting to vote early as it is to vote on the election day. Glennon, thank you for being here tonight. It's an honor to
Thank you, Wisconsin. I love you. You can do hard things.
All right, so with that, I am going to turn it over to my dear, brilliant friend, Paula Phillips. She is the Women's Outreach Director for the Biden campaign. Paula, take it away. Thanks, Wisconsin.
Well, thank you so much. How do I follow that? I'll tell you how I follow it. I'm going to help you do a hard thing and talk to your friends and family about how to vote, and using a tool that we have called Vote Joe. And once again, I just want to echo the fact that it is incredible that we have had women activated during this weekend, and you've all inspired me so much. And I'm trying not to cry because I'm so inspired. And when I'm like Kristen Bell, if I'm like really happy, I cry. If I'm really sad, I cry. If I'm really mad, I cry. So we're going to hold it together for this training. This is just going to take about 10 minutes. And then afterward, I'm going to support you during the chat while Beanie and Nada and Elena are talking together. So I'm pulling this up. And all right, so we are talking about relational organizing. And relational organizing, you know what this is. It's just us talking to people that we already know. And the reason why it's different is that when people receive a text from you, it's much more powerful and, quite frankly, like more likely to actually have more engagement. I know that all of us have been getting a lot of text in the state of Wisconsin. We've been getting a lot of calls, and you have no idea how all of your friends and family are voting, or if they have a plan, until you actually ask them. And you can actually be the person to help them register, to be the person to help them find their early voting location. So it's really rewarding to do this work. And we use it with the Vote Joe app. So with the VoteJo app, the main action that we're asking people to do is to contact friends that are starred. So these are people that have requested ballots, but we don't have information that show that they've actually returned them. And then we're also trying to text people that are lean Democratic to make sure that they have a voting plan. So in terms of who we're reaching out to, it's friends who have ballots, make sure that they return them. Other friends that are strong Dems, make sure they have a plan to vote. And then friends who have moved or turned 18. So helping them register and make a plan. So if you haven't done so already, pull out your phone and text APP to 30330. And that should work for no matter what kind of phone you have, whether it's Android, Google, Apple, be able to do that and find it in your app store. And when you create an account, what's really important is that you enter a Wisconsin zip code. So that will help make sure that you get the prompt to do the right action, and then sign in with your email. So then what we have here are screenshots of what you, once you download it, put in your zip code and name, and it tells you what we're trying to do with this app. So we want you to sync your contacts, and syncing your contacts, once you do that, you'll see here on the screen, you'll get these cute little emojis that will help you identify who to contact. So we'll get there. And it doesn't get all of your contacts, it's identifying contacts that are associated with voters. This is really important. You are in control of what this campaign receives. So in terms of what we get, we'll talk a little bit later on how we record that in the VoteJo app, but you'll see through this experience that you aren't actually texting people through VoteJo. You'll copy a script and then you'll text people on your normal texting platform because they're not actually getting your phone numbers. They're not uploading this because they want to make sure that you continue to be in control of your contacts and what information the campaign receives. So hopefully you've texted VoteJo and downloaded it, have a username, and sync your contacts. And then once you get there, you'll see this screen that says, the latest action, Wisconsin, have your friends and family voted. So if that's not the first action you see at the top of your homepage, scroll down to make sure that that is the right action. This one right here, Wisconsin, have your friends and family voted. And then you'll click and message friends. I know this is like a shiny button for me, take action. I'm like, oh yeah, like always. We want you to actually click the message friends in this action. So that's why there's this big arrow, and this is really big. And then it reminds you what we're talking about in terms of data security, and then we'll go to your contacts so that we get ready for action. The fun part, the emojis. So these are the emojis that are in next to people's names. So if they're in a battleground state, they have a ballot. If they're a super voter, they have those heart eyes. A frequent voter, they have a smiley face. Infrequent, kind of snoozing. We don't know if they'll show up or not. And then if there's a blue donkey, that's for a Democrat. And then a red elephant is for a Republican. So when we're doing our action today, we are connecting with people that we don't have information if they've returned their ballot. So we are contacting those starred people. So all of these people are stars. We have information that they requested a ballot and just don't know if they've returned it. So then it'll give you that list, but once again, you choose how many people you're contacting. Our challenge for tonight is for you to contact at least 10 people. If you're thinking about this tomorrow morning, we want you to contact, likely if you could do 10 a day until the election, if you have that many contacts. So if you select your friends, and then it'll show you the script on the right-hand side, you can copy it. And then you'll see it takes you to actually your normal messaging service. So that way you can edit the script a little bit to make it more personal. Hey, Paula, or hey, Joseph, it's Paula. I just wanted to text you, so that they understand that, oh, nobody took over my friend's phone. My friend is actually texting me about the election. Now, here's the information about recording the responses. All right, so we see that after I text Joseph, he says that he hasn't actually returned his ballot yet. So what's great about Vote Joe, to take away the anxiety about like, wait, how do I talk to my friends about this? We are providing you a script with the most up-to-date information so that we can make sure our friend Joseph actually knows what to do if he hasn't returned his ballot yet. So you'll see this little speech bubble on the bottom, and that is how you'll be able to find our scripts. So you select Joseph, you're following up, and then you can see all of these scripts. So I still have my ballot, copy it, send it to Joseph. Maybe Joseph says, now I want to vote in person. We have that in terms of people that have received their ballot but want to vote in person. What options do they have? So there are all different ways that we can respond to our friends that we've been able to write up for you. So it takes away that pressure. And then once you've filled out that follow-up report, next to it is that fill out report. And then you'll click Joseph supports Biden. He received his ballot and he plans on returning it to a Dropbox. So then you click, send a campaign, and then this will help. This is the best part because at least 3 people that I've talked to, I've asked, okay, once I reported your information, are you getting less text? And they said that they felt like they were getting less text. So help your friends get less texts about the election. Let us know if they have voted, and if they haven't voted yet, they're going to still get those texts. So you can be that friend that texts them every day, which I have done to my friends. Did you return your ballot yet? Let me update this for you so you can get less texts. And now you'll be able to see that preview report. Really important to make sure that we understand that they registered to vote, what their ballot status is, and then how they're voting. And then we send it off. And just a little bit of information about our script. We provide that information. We don't want to give people misleading information. Keep track of information in these conversations. If you have any questions, we have a Slack, and then I'll be here for the rest of the night if you wanted to directly message me through the chat as you're looking around through the app. And now you have everything that you need to be able to talk to your friends until November 3rd. So that is what I've got for you, friends. Just also wanted to make sure that you had information about our voter assistance line. So if there's ever a question that you feel like is too complicated, that if you go to iwillvote.com and you try to make a plan and it still doesn't answer your question, you can call this number, 608-336-3232. Once again, that's 608-336-3232. I have that saved in my phone. You can make sure your friends and family have that number. But once we've got that number, and then we're always saying that iwillvote.com, very helpful in finding your early voting location, what you need to bring, and what hours places are open. I actually found out that I could vote today. I didn't even know that our early voting locations were open on Sunday, and did that this morning. So thank you all so much for being here. And I wanted to take the opportunity to thank our one of our amazing organizers of today, Patty. Patty has really put so much of her time, talent, and energy into this event and into this weekend. And she is somebody that, really make sure that people know that they're valued, and that took the time to really think about how can we do different, like the events differently, how can we do electoral politics differently. And I just wanted to make sure that in front of every Patty that I thanked you for that, because that is really special. But in terms of her official biography, Patty is the lead organizer of the Women Taking Back Wisconsin Week of Action and the founder of Persist, Progressive Women's Activists of Washington County. She came to Wisconsin from Oakland, California to support efforts to flip this key battleground state. Patty is highly regarded as an expert in the field of social media and event marketing within the music industry. While at Columbia Records, she was an early proponent of music tech and used innovative technologies to promote artists such as Adele, Band of Horses, and Passion Pit. Outside of political organizing, Patty is a consultant in music and tech industries and is on the advisory board for South by Southwest and the San Francisco Music Tech Summit. Patty earned her undergraduate degree from St. Louis University before building her career in New York City and San Francisco area. Patty, take it away.
Thank you so much, Paula, for that introduction and for sharing such an important technology that we can use to continue our efforts after this weekend of action is over. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Women Taking Back Wisconsin at the end of this event, but I'm so excited to announce our next 3 speakers. Nada El-Makashvi, who uses the pronouns she and her, graduated from UW-Madison earlier this year, and even before she had graduated, was running for office to represent District 26 in the Wisconsin State Senate. She is currently the Chief of Staff for Representative-elect Francesca Hong. We also have Elena Hassel, who uses the pronouns they and them. She's currently a junior at UW-Madison and just in April was elected to represent District 5 on the Dane County Board of Supervisors at just 20 years old. And our third very, very special guest is Beanie Feldstein. She is the actress that you probably know from Lady Bird and Booksmart. She's also an activist and a big supporter of Get Out the Vote efforts. So I'm going to turn things over to the 3 of them and then we'll regroup after that.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
This is so exciting. I am so honored to be in discussion with you 2 incredible, incredible people. I am just really overwhelmed and excited to be talking to the women of Wisconsin and you 2 as well. I thought we could start with something kind of fun, just like ease into it. So Biden is obviously known for his incredible eyewear, and Harris is known for those incredible Converse. So I was wondering what item of clothing kind of gets you 2 like ready to take on the day. You're both so impressive, you're so inspirational, and you're doing so much while also being a student. So what's that piece of clothing or that accessory or that thing that just makes you feel like yourself and makes you feel powerful?
I guess for me, I usually like wearing like fun earrings. I'm coincidentally not wearing any today. But that's something I like to wear when I go out. It makes me feel powerful.
I love it.
Not so much a piece of clothing, but lipstick is pretty big for me, except now it's like with a mask on. The mask wears the lipstick and not me, but usually that's my go-to.
Love it.
How about you?
I'm not wearing mine either, but I love a headband. Usually that's sort of my like sense of power comes from like a hair accessory moment. But I also love makeup and I love playing around with makeup too. But the mask is important, deeply important, but also can kind of, I've been doing more of an eye situation lately than that. So you 2 are both, I mean, your resumes are just, I was overwhelmed when I was getting to know you 2 and reading about you and researching you, because what you've managed to accomplish while still being in college or just graduated from college is deeply inspirational. And I feel like there's so many threats that are scaring all of us right now, but particularly young people. You know, the country is in such disarray, and there's the pandemic and racial injustice and climate change, and there's so much at stake. And I think a lot of people are not like you 2 in that they are afraid to get involved or they're unenthused, and they just think, why should I even try? What's the point of even trying? Does my voice matter? Does my vote matter? And so I thought we could all start off by just like, what do you say to those people, whether they're your close friends or whether it was someone that you don't know? Like, what inspired you to get so involved? And then what would you say to those people that are around our ages and kind of feel like, what's the point?
Nala, I don't know if you want to go first.
It's okay, you can go.
I guess first, to answer your question, what would I say to people who feel like their voice like doesn't matter? I think it's about finding an angle with them and finding what does matter to them. And even though an individual voice seems like it doesn't have an effect when we're combating these big systemic changes, you have to think of it more as like a pebble, like you're a ripple effect. So if you can share your views with other people and you can inspire somebody else to fight for the common cause, to fight for change, then I think that's completely worthwhile. You don't have to have any sort of like national platform. You can just be a person who wants to contribute to moving these big, seemingly immovable rocks that are systemic inequities and climate change.
Yeah, just building off that, I decided to run for office at 2023 against an incumbent that had been there for 57 years. And it came from really looking at the community around me, and looking at, the efficacy of my voice. And it is a scary thing, right? I think every woman, every person deals with a lot of imposter syndrome when they come into a space that is not inherently meant for their voice, and that they've been gatekeeped out of. But working in the Wisconsin State Capitol, I worked for the governor and in the Senate for a little bit. I realized that so many people there also didn't really know what they were doing. They weren't leading by talking to their communities or really listening. And so it was a question of, am I going to take agency in solving the issues that affect me, that affect young people, that affect people of color, or am I going to sit there and complain and really not do anything about it? And I think that every young person that's looking at this electoral kind of environment that we're in and deciding whether they wanted to get involved or not has to really ask themselves, do I need permission to lead? Do I need permission from people that haven't served me, people that look the other way when issues like housing and climate justice and racial justice affect me and harm me? Why can I not have my voice join theirs, especially when I'm more qualified to solve my own problems? And I think that if we all kind of ask ourselves that in any field that we're in, whether it's Hollywood or Washington D.C., right? It's how do I take hold of my own agency in my own life and make it better for not only myself but the people that I love around me.
I feel like I already cried when Glennon was reading from her book. I'm going to cry like 17 more times during this situation. You're both so inspirational, and it's really moving. I feel like I'm going to be skipping out of this Zoom meeting just with like so fired up and ready to just take on these next 8 days with a lot of focus and power. And thank you both for being a part of this with me. I'm really proud to get to talk to you. Obviously, running for office, no matter which position you're running for, is intimidating on any level, whether it's like in your middle school or in your state. So for both of you doing it so young and doing it while tackling school, was there ever a moment that an obstacle hit you that you didn't know how to face, or what was the hardest moment of taking that on?
Yeah, so running a campaign, especially while in school, is not easy. I know it's gonna be hard, but like halfway I was like, this is really hard, but I gotta keep going.
Totally.
It's not like in cross country in 7th grade where I hated it so much I asked my mom to quit and she was like, no, you gotta keep doing it. It's kind of the same deal. But yeah, there were kind of like a lot of bumps in the road, and I thankfully had Nada as my campaign manager for my county board race. So around this time I was actually talking to her about like being my campaign manager. But there are times where it's just like, I am so worn out, I am so burnt out, like I just want to go to bed, but there's a million things I need to do. And that in itself is like really hard. But also like when COVID hit, that was like a huge like road bump too. So having to navigate how to run a campaign and navigate like studying for finals and just doing everything else, and then like now I can't operate as normal because we're in a pandemic now, so now we have to re-strategize. We have to like kind of like not quite go back to ground zero, but like completely re-envision how we're going to win this campaign. So there definitely like are like difficulties and things like you definitely can't plan for, but I mean it worked out in the end, so it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, Elena was an exceptional candidate. I had such an easy time as campaign manager because they are just amazing. So hats off to you, Elena. I ran Elena's campaign at the same time as I was running my own for Senate, and so that picked up around April. Oh my God, I sound like such an asshole, but that picked up around April.
You don't. You sound like the most inspirational person I've ever met. Keep going, please.
Clearly I was bored and had nothing to do, but that picked up around April. And so I kind of was so lucky to have gotten that experience doing a Dane County, so a smaller race than a Senate one, and really getting to know the city of Madison very well before I started mine. And so the first barrier that hit me right away was deciding, whether I was going to play politics as usual or whether I was going to, speak my mind and speak my experience in a way where it frightened the establishment. It frightened, kind of the status quo. And so really rooting my own kind of self-view and self-image and helping the community gave me that strength to say stuff that a lot of people didn't like, in leadership when I questioned their work for the community. And so it was that barrier of fighting the status quo, going up against power and punching upwards. It's not comfortable. Call out culture isn't fun when you're doing it with people in power. It's not fun at all. But it also roots in, I think, responsibility, where if we look at something that isn't working, we have to say it out loud. And that's one reason I love Kamala Harris, is because she does that. And why I'm so happy that she is VP, because seeing a strong woman of color questioning the powers that be is so incredibly important. And of course, I got a lot of death threats and, all the social media trash, being, a queer Black woman in politics and a Muslim immigrant one too. But I think the goodness that I found in my community was a really big kind of influence and kept me going.
I just could talk to you both all day. This is like my actual dream scenario. I'm unwell, so emotional, so inspiring. Obviously, you both were born or grew up in Wisconsin, and as we all know, it's such an important state and a purple state, or a swing state, if you will. Was there a moment growing up that you feel like you encountered that feeling and solidified your own progressiveness within it, if that makes sense? Like, was there a moment that you where your own personal politics, not the politics of your family, your friends, or your community, kind of clicked into place?
Yeah, I think if we're just gonna go through this pattern, I'll go on next.
It's very like polite.
But I guess like it solidified like pretty early on. Growing, like, my family is biracial. My mom is Filipino and my dad is white. So like I was kind of like around like different cultures, different voices, like my whole life. And it like started to solidify like as I got older, learning what, like, if like my mom would like have a conversation like, oh yeah, like your cousin is like gay or something, I'm like, okay, that seems like normal. But like my parents had these conversations on how important it is to respect everybody, and like have like an appreciation for people, even if you don't quite understand, understanding that everybody has a value and nobody is inherently better or worse than each other. So my parents really fostered that into me from an early age. So I think I just carried those values, and they're very deep rooted. And when I got to the age where I realized like I can do something about this and I can be like a part of like a movement to make the world a better place, make my community a better place, I kind of had like, I was having like a field day. I was like, this is amazing. Like I can do something, like instant like spark of passion. And I think that's what I want to dedicate the rest of my life doing.
Beautiful.
So I actually was born in Sudan, Africa. That's where I was from, and I lived there for 6 years before immigrating to the US. And I think kind of growing up here as an immigrant and going back and forth to Sudan on vacation really made me appreciate the democracy that we do have here, and that even though we do have our low points in American history, that what we have aspired to is really something revolutionary that isn't, you know, the political reality in 90% of the world. So I think looking at coming from a place where I couldn't yell at like the Democratic Party leadership when I didn't like them in Sudan without being like jailed and imprisoned for the rest of my life, and then coming here where I can speak my mind and really, you know, challenge power is the root of the precious democracy that we have. And so kind of looking at how lucky I was to have immigrated here to America, how lucky I was to be a woman that could speak my mind when I wanted to without, you know, cultural or religious repercussions, really also made me, you know, question why can't that reality be for everyone in America? And even though we do have a democracy, that there's so much more that we need to build within it. And so kind of taking from my own lived experience as an African Muslim, you know, Black woman, looking at how we are, I think, arguably the richest country in the world, yet we have so many people that are sleeping out on the streets, so many people that can't afford healthcare. And so saying that we should ask more for our country, and that we have the potential of being so great with the democracy that we do have, that it's a shame that we aren't fighting enough for it. So I think that experience specifically is the thing that radicalized me into my progressiveness.
So incredible. It's almost like the people that you love the most or you know the most in your life are the people that you can get the most real with, or you can not critique but analyze and really like examine the deepest because you love them the most. And I think it sounds like that's maybe how you both feel about this country. It's like you really love it and you really believe in it, but you also deeply see its flaws and the institutions that have just been, you know, deeply ingrained in our society in such a flawed way for so long. And you both want to kind of rattle that notion that they have to stay that way. And it's because you believe in the power of democracy that you're able to do that, which I think is really beautiful. It's like a deep belief and a deep love that leads to analysis, that leads to change. And I think that's really exceptional.
I think you nailed it. Yeah. Can we turn the question on you? You know, you're Booksmart. I like told myself I need to calm down on this call and not freak out. That is by far top 5 favorite movies of all time. But I am such a huge fan. I'm wondering, like, how do you take the influential voice you have? You're such a tremendous actress, and we're so lucky to share a generation with you. How do you take that voice that you've built and, you know, use it in politics? Is it something that you felt activated towards in this election or beforehand? But where does your political activism root from?
Yeah, thank you. That means so much to me. You know, I think that I love acting, and I've always been a performer. I was obsessed with Barbra Streisand at 2 years old. So like it was clear what I was going to do for a long time. But I've always rejected this kind of mantra or phrase that people would always say, which is like, if you can do anything else, you should do that. Like that actors should only act if that's all they can do or that's all they care about. And that's never been who I am. I love performing. I love creating stories. I love getting to represent people through storytelling, but I also really love and care about so many other things. And I went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut, and I was a sociology major. So I didn't major in theater or dance or music or anything like that. I majored in sociology. And I think it was my time at Wesleyan. I wasn't quite as savvy as you two to sort of dig deep and look internally and also look externally at our society and start to think analytically until those years at Wesleyan. I think it was my discovery of sociology that kind of cracked open the bubble I had been living in for so long, that, you know, we all just are kids and we go about our day and we go to our friends' houses and we go to our school and we go to our after school, whatever we do. But it was that my intro to sociology class, I remember I called my parents and I was like, I think I want to be a sociology major. And they were like, sorry, what? Like you're like you do theater. Like, what are you talking about? It was sort of from left field, but I think it was this deep analytical lens that I strapped onto my face that I just could never take off. So I feel like as much as I'm an actor, I'm also kind of reading the world through a sociological lens, and that's such an important part of who I am. And what's really beautiful about being in movies that is that people kind of sometimes know who you are or follow you on Instagram or whatever it is. But for me, and I think it's grown election after election, year after year, but I think this year it just was like, if I'm going to be a performer and be a storyteller, and people might know my name or whatever it is, what is it all for if it's not to do this? What is it all for if it's not to activate people and mobilize people? And it's been such a incredibly, it really feels to me like, what's it all for if it's not to use it for good? I don't understand how to be idle. I just don't understand it. If I have this beautiful thing, it has to go to be doing something productive. And the stakes are so high. I mean, we all know it. We all feel it. The stakes could not be higher. And, you know, I want to marry my girlfriend one day, and I want to do all of these things, and I want to feel safe in the country that I live in. And I was just like, if I can mobilize not only myself, but my friends and all of these people to start talking about the election in an open way, in a positive way. And I've been doing exactly what we're all asking you lovely women of Wisconsin to do today, which is talking to my friends, talking to my family, phone banking, doing all of the tangible things that we can do because they're so powerful. Like, I was thinking about this before we signed on, like, obviously it's COVID times, but pre-COVID, if someone on the street was like, you should drink more water, you'd be like, okay. But if your best friend or your family member, someone was like, you really need to drink more water, you're like, I'm gonna think about that. And if they both say it, then you're really gonna think about it. And that's kind of, I know it's a kind of a silly example, but it's like, that's kind of what this is with voting. It's like, okay, not only, okay, you're going to vote who you're going to vote for, but what's your plan? How are you getting there? Are you registered? Have you checked what you need to bring when you're voting? All of these things, if you're reminded from different vantage points, it eventually does really settle in, and you really start to think about it and make sure you have a plan and all of these things. So that was such a long-winded answer. I apologize, but I'm done.
No, that was so informative. Elena, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I think that's great that you're a sociology major because that is what I am studying in my.
I heard. I'm just like we're twins in some way.
Well, that would be okay. Never mind. But yeah, so I'm really stoked to be being able to talk to you. I literally called my mom like right after I found out I was doing this. I was like, Mom, I'm going to be on a round table with Beanie Feldstein. And my mom's like, oh my God, Booksmart! So, yeah, so it's really great to be with you. And I know you've used your platform to be outspoken about your partner, about bodies, about friends. And I'm sure it isn't always easy to have the personal be public or to decide what you wanted to speak out on and how. So what inspired you to write the Refinery 29 article about body image a few years ago?
Oh, wow. Thank you. So to catch people up who probably have not read it, I wrote a piece for Refinery 29 about 3 years ago, and it's called Please Stop Complimenting My Body. And basically what happened was I was in a musical in New York, and musicals are hard, man. Like musicals are so hard. They are so rigorous, and it was a dance heavy show, and it's really cardiovascular, and my costume weighed 15 pounds, and I did it 8 times a week, and without noticing, my body changed. And I had 1 week off of the show for the whole year. You get 1 week off. And I went home, and I came home, and my whole family and friends and everyone around me was just like, you look so much better. You look so much better. You look so much better. You look great. You look so much better. And what they were, because I was thinner, that was that was why they were commenting on it. And it really rattled me because I'm someone who's very naturally confident in my body. I mean, it took a little bit to get there in my teenagers, but once I got there, I really stayed there. And I really like my body. I never thought much more about it. But then all of a sudden, everyone looking at me and tracking my weight and commenting on the difference, it made me feel really self-conscious. So even though I was thinner, I felt much worse because our society tells us that thinner is better, but that is not my personal belief system. And I really want to debunk that societal belief system and these ridiculous beauty norms that women and non-binary people and men, all of us are really locked into that. And also thin equals healthy and thin equals more beautiful and more attractive and all these things. And it's just simply not true. And it's not the reality of my life. And it's not what leads to my confidence. I'm confident in any size. And so really just trying to ask people that you might think you're being complimentary, but that compliment comes from a societal norm that is kind of should just be done. It's so unnecessary and so harmful for a lot of people. So I wrote the essay, it just kind of flowed out of me. It was like one of those things where I just sat down and it was just like, it was there. It just came out. And it was really nerve-wracking to publish, but the response was really, really incredible. I had people that wrote to me saying, I'm ill and people don't know that I'm ill and they keep complimenting me and telling me I look beautiful because I'm thinner. And it's like, you don't know what people are going through, whether it's in their mind, in their body, and whatever it is that makes their body change. Bodies fluctuate. But, I think we're told that after you go through puberty that they should just stay the same. And it's just not true. Things change from month to month, week to week. It's like things are loose. We're not statues. So I really wanted to ask the people around me and hopefully a larger portion of society to really think critically about where that compliment comes from.
Yeah, I think a lot of women in Wisconsin, a lot of people in Wisconsin are going to connect very much with that. I know I did. I'm sure Elena did as well. Before we got on this call, I know you had a life-changing phone banking experience. So I wanted to ask you, how did phone banking go today? And if you wanted to share that story, I've been dying to hear about it.
Yes. Well, for those of us that have phone banked, that. And I think it's important to tell the story because if I'm being honest, it was a 2-hour session. And the first hour, 15, hour 20, I was having a lot of technical issues. So my phone kept cutting out, the website would knock me off. I just kept battling the technology and then people would be hanging up or, not have a lot of time to talk. So I was sort of frustrated. And I finally was like, you know what, Bean, just log back in one more time. Call one more person. And I get connected to this woman and I say, our record shows that you are a Democrat and are you planning to vote for Biden and Harris and Democrats down the ballot? And she was like, I don't think I'm going to vote. I don't want to vote. And I was like, I really understand that. Do you mind sharing more about that? And she was like, I don't feel compelled towards either of them. I don't know if there's the right choice for me. She was a devout Christian and she was saying that she didn't feel moved towards one of them or the other. And then she said, the only time I've ever voted was 4 years ago. And it's because my mom, who's no longer here, dragged me to the polls and forced me to vote. And I also have lost someone in my life in the past 4 years. And I thought, this is a door. This beautiful person was willing to share that with me. That's a really poignant, beautiful thing to share with a stranger. And I thought, she met me there. I'm going to meet her. She got there and I'm going to meet her there. And I said, I'm so sorry for your loss. I also have lost the person I love more than anything in the world in the past 4 years. I'm so sorry, but who understands that pain that both of us have and that shift in life perspective more than anyone is Joe Biden. Joe Biden has lost an unimaginable amount of people in his life, his wife, his children. If there's anyone that will fight for you, it is him. And she sort of, paused. And I was like, look, I want someone, you can teach someone, you can make them grow, you can debate certain policies, but at the end of the day, I want someone with empathy. And our current administration does not have it. And we are in a country that is grieving. And if there's anyone that knows grief and can use it to build people, take people under their wing and build them up and lift them up, it's Joe Biden. And that's the thing that, for me, Beanie, makes me want to vote for him more than anything else. And I said it, and she sort of paused and she goes, you have some good thoughts. And I was like, yeah, do I? And she was like, I never thought of it that way. So do you know where my polling place is? And I was like, give me 1 second. And I was like, it's the elementary school. She's like, it's across from my house. And I was like, so do you think you're going to do it? And she was like, well, you made some really good points. And I was like, so, and she was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go vote for Joe Biden. And it was, I have the chills. I've never done drugs in my whole life, but it felt like a high. I swear to God, it was like one of the most moving. I mean, the conversation was even longer than that, but I tried to tell it quickly, but it was like the most meaningful 25-minute conversation I've truly ever had. And I feel like I connected with this woman in a really powerful way. She opened up to me, and then I opened up to her, and then we talked, and we actually had like a deep, meaningful conversation. And she's gonna go and she's gonna vote. And it was like, I can't explain to all of you who are texting and using the Vote Joe app and reaching out to people. It's scary. My heart pounds in my chest every time I do it, whether it's my best friend or a stranger down the phone. But those moments, imagining her going to the polls and casting her vote because of a conversation her and I had on a Sunday, was life-changing for me. And I think the more I volunteer and the more I activate myself, the more invested I am in a way that, as Glennon said, takes away anxiety, because you're doing everything you possibly can. And also, as you both spoke so beautifully about earlier, it's like, and Elena, you said it really beautifully, like, we have to respect one another. And I think there's so much division in this country right now. And look, I understand why. I struggle with it myself, to remember that we all are just humans that should try to take care of each other, and to reach out and have those really difficult conversations with a best friend or a stranger or anyone in between is life-changing work. I swear. It's kind of more exhilarating than any scene I've ever filmed. Like, you're just like on a high. So yeah, that was my call.
I connect with that so much. I was trying not to cry this whole time. Were you, Elena? I was like, hold it together.
Yeah,
I was such a moving story.
I was just like, what? Like, but that was really beautiful.
I mean, it was really beautiful of her to, she opened the door and then I stepped through it. So it was one of those life-changing conversations, and you can have them over text through the, everything that Patty and Paula were showing you earlier, and you can have it over the phone. You can have it with masks safely in person if people around you that you're in a pod with safely during COVID. But I think that it's just the more I dedicate myself to being involved and volunteering and talking the vote and getting out the vote, the more invigorated I am.
I so connect with that. When I door knocked for the first time in 2018 to turn Wisconsin blue, I went to a town 30 minutes north of Madison called Lodi. And I tell the story a lot because it really, really moves me, just like yours, Beanie, where I was wearing all black hijab. This town was smaller, so I assumed people would look at me and say, oh, she's a terrorist, or she's this and this and this. And the first door I knocked on, this middle-aged white lady, she slammed it open. She was like, honey, it's 100 degrees out. I know you're fasting. It's Ramadan. Do you want to come inside? And that minute, I was this worldview that I had that, we're kind of conditioned to believe that in the era of Trump that we all hate each other, was completely just misconstruing reality. And she was as Republican as they come, and I'm super progressive, but we still, she opened that door, and like you said, we connected on in the middle of that, and when someone extends a hand and starts that conversation, such great things happen. So I think in organizing and canvassing, those stories do happen a lot. I'm sure like a lot of people who have done it can connect too.
Totally. Oh, that's such a beautiful story. Such a beautiful story. Yeah, and also today she was like talking about her deep Christian faith, and I'm Jewish, and we were right there. We were, it was like it was really. I'm like, I wonder what she looks like. I wonder what she, it's like, what was she wearing? And it's like, she's like this like figment of my imagination. This beautiful, beautiful. I can't wait until the day that we're all healthy and I can do it in person, because it also is the thing too. And I wonder if you two feel this way. It's like, now that I've done it, I will never not do it. You know what I mean? It's like, I got involved maybe a little bit later than you two beautiful people. I had been doing it for so long, but I think once you're involved, you'll never turn back. And I hope that you beautiful women out there, we can't see you, but in Wisconsin, feel the same way, that this was the turning point election. And I think it has been for a lot of people. This was really extraordinary. You both are so exceptional. I can't wait to follow and be alongside you for all of your campaigns to come. And you're both really wonderful, and I can't wait till we turn Wisconsin blue. And so I cannot thank you both enough. You're incredible, and this was really a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thank you, Beanie. I know I'm so honored to be here, and you've asked such great questions. This conversation could go on forever, I feel like. It's so great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really great meeting you, and it's really great to be in the same virtual space as Nada again.
I get to come to Wisconsin and campaign for whatever you two are running for next.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to jump in here to wrap things up. Thank you so much to Beanie and Elena and Nada and Paula and Glennon and Robin and all of our volunteers who joined us from all over the country, because they care about the women of Wisconsin and flipping this state. Women Taking Back Wisconsin was all about mobilizing women voters in this state to flip this state for Biden, because whoever wins Wisconsin is going to win this election. And women's rights are on the line in this election. Our bodies, our healthcare, our future, the future of our planet, the future of our country, the future of Wisconsin, it's all on the line, and we have to keep fighting. I came out here from Oakland, California, like the bluest bubble in the country, to one of the most conservative counties in the country. I'm here in Washington County. I know you saw the video of the 4 women and the stories we told at the beginning of this event. Those women, and like, I could cry about this, but those women are why I put this event together. Women in Washington County are speaking out in a county where their voices are not welcome, where they have to be scared to put up a Biden sign, scared for people to find out that they're a Democrat, or their car might get keyed for putting up the wrong sign. Yet, despite all that, and despite the dangers of being who they need to be, they are fighting so, so hard. So when I thought about what can I do to support these women, but also get rid of our current president, this is what I knew I needed to do, because these women need to know we have their back, not just in Washington County, but in Madison and every corner of Wisconsin. And so I know you think, well, I made the phone calls, I sent the postcards, like, I'm done, I'm good, I can go rest. Hate to break it to you. No, this is not the time. We are in here for the final push. You've got to keep fighting. You've got to use this app. You've got to make phone calls. You got to email all your friends. Like, we can't afford to sit back. And this isn't just about this one election or getting a certain person out of office, but this is about changing the way our country works. And so we know women get stuff done, and we know women win elections. So I'm going to say to you, keep fighting, keep voting. We're going to take back Wisconsin. We're going to take back this country, and we're going to do it together as women. So thank you so much for being a part of this weekend of action. I'm so stoked. Keep doing this, ladies.